So, Courtney, what's on your TBR this month?
I have about 25 books.
Don't be ridiculous.
20?
No.
15.
Oh, sweetie.
10?
You wish.
9.
I'll allow it.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Courtney and this is where I talk all about books. Today I'm doing something that I didn't actually think I was gonna be doing on this channel, and that is doing a TBR. And the reason I don't do this is because I am a mood reader, so I will be reading a book and then all of a sudden I will decide I don't want to read that book anymore and then I'll pick something random. So it's really difficult for me to put together TBRs and actually like stick to them. But today we're gonna try, because I do actually have a really big list of books that I want to get finished this month, and me being extremely ambitious has written them all down and I'm really hoping that I can stick to it. It might not be ambitious to like other people who are big readers, but for me as somebody who doesn't have a subscription to any audiobook websites or anything like that, it is very ambitious. And also because this isn't something that is full-time, this is something that I'm kind of trying to do on the side of managing websites, on the side of writing my own books and getting those published and edited. So there's a lot that's going on. So anyways, let's get into it. The first book that I have on my TBR is actually a reread, and it is because I am trying to develop a list of a certain genre, and I know I read this book a while back, but I would like to reread it because I am having trouble like remembering the details of the book. So, and that book is The Pirate Prince, which is number 5 in Lords of the Var by Michelle M. Pello. I have read a lot of her stuff before. I read a lot of the Lords of the Var series. I read a lot of her Dragon Lord series, and I am still kind of slowly working my way through the Space Lord series, which is shorter, I believe, unless she wrote more books since I have checked it out. But anyways, I read a lot of her stuff. I love her stuff. And I know I have read this book before, but I'm trying to refresh my memory. So that's gonna be a reread. It should be really quick because I usually, if I do a reread, it's gonna be like skimming through and just kind of like refreshing my memory. The next book that I really want to read this month is called Marrow, and it is by Trisha Wolfe and Brynne Weaver. I have read Trisha Wolfe before. I've only read one book by her before and I loved it. It was twisted, it was dark, it was sexy, it was really awesome. And I have been hearing nothing but good things about this book on social media. And from my understanding, it is about 2 rival serial killers that turns into a very steamy and very dark and twisted time, which is super up my alley. And I'm really excited to read it. And that's one of the ones that's kind of like on the top priority list for me this month is Marrow and my reread. So the next one that I would really like to read is also an author that I have read in the past, and that is called Chastly, Bitten, and it's the first in the Blood Alliance series by Lexi C. Foss. I have read her stuff before. She has written some Omegaverse, like wolf shifter romance books that were really good in my opinion. I have not read any of her vampire stuff, but I've heard a lot of good things about this particular book, and I am really excited to get into it. It's been on my TBR for quite a while, but I'm really trying to get on top of my lists lately because I started this channel and I would really like to keep up with it. So I'm actually trying to work through books that have been on my TBR for a very long time. The next one is actually going to be kind of a risk because I am somebody that looks at reviews. The reason I look at reviews is not to see all the negative ones and get steered away from it. The reason I look at reviews is because I pick out things from the good and bad reviews, like things that people might have had a problem with in bad reviews might be something that I'm really into, and vice versa. So I did read a lot of reviews on this and it's very mixed. There's a lot of people saying it's amazing and a lot of people saying it was way too dark and way too twisted or cold, I guess is a lot of people were saying that. But that book is Born to be Bound. It's the first in the Alpha's Claim series by Addison Cain. I do read Omegaverse. I am very picky about my Omegaverse, so this again is going to be a little bit of a risk for me because I am picky and the reviews are very mixed, but we're gonna see. I'm gonna take that risk and I'm gonna see if I like this book. The next one is Run and Hide, which has been on my TBR for a while as well. It's number 1 in Myths and Monsters by Beatrix Hollow. From my understanding, it is kind of a horror reverse harem kind of book with monsters. I don't really know much more about it. It sounds kind of dark, and because it is spooky season, I'm trying to get more into that like feel of things, and I'm trying to get a lot more of those books on my TBR and on my recommendations list. The cover was really cool. The synopsis sounded really interesting. I'm not typically into reverse harem. More than one partner kind of stresses me out in books, but I am willing to give it a chance. The next book is The Mountain's Mate, and it is the first in the Salt Planet Giant series by Sara Ivy Hill. And the reason I am kind of laughing right now is because I've been seeing that I follow this author on Instagram, and I've been seeing so many like artworks of this like giant alien man and this tiny human woman, and I just thought it was so ridiculous, and I want to read it for my I read it so you don't have to, but maybe you should list, which if you haven't checked that out, there are already 3 videos on that. So I would watch those because I mean, I think they were fun and interesting. But anyways, I would really like to read it. I am, however, I was almost going to skip to book 2, and I believe this series doesn't have to be read in order. I might be wrong. But I decided to just stick to my guns and read book 1. But the reason I didn't want to read book 1 is because the main character's name is Patrick, and that is my father's name. But I kind of skimmed through and I saw his full name was like Patrick Kilgar or something. So when I do my review, I'll probably not use his like actual name. I'll probably use like Kilregar or whatever his like ending of his name is. But I did almost, because these books, like, you know, when I do these reviews, they get kind of outrageous, and I know my parents watch these reviews, so. Next book on my list, I told you this is ambitious because, again, I don't have the audiobook versions of any of these, and I probably won't be able to do it for a while. Maybe eventually, when I start to get a little bit more stable with things, I will get my subscription back to Scribd or something, which is where I used to listen to a lot of my audiobooks, because unless they change things, they're unlimited, so you can listen to as many as you want. And because I was just like blowing through books so fast, I needed a website that would let me do that, and Scribd did that. But then I canceled my subscription because I lost my job and things went downhill, but I would really like to get my subscription back. We'll see. Hopefully soon, because I just like, you know, I know that I'm gonna burn myself out staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning to read these books. The next book that I have on my list is The Map to You by Quinn, and I was seeing this all over TikTok. It's somebody that I follow on TikTok, and I was seeing the teasers for this, and I was really interested because I've been looking for pirate romance, and this is a pirate romance. It is my understanding, however, I didn't know this until I was about like 6 or 5 chapters in, that I believe it might be a young adult or new adult. I mean, they're adults, but it's I think it's more geared towards young adult audiences, which is not typically what I read, but I'm willing to give it a chance because the first few chapters actually were really fun, and I already am kind of like addicted to the characters. So even if the spice levels are very, very low or non-existent, I'm still probably gonna finish this book, and I'm probably gonna include it on this channel at some point because so far so good. It's really cute, and we'll see where it goes. The next book that I have that I really want to read is Found by the Alien Pirate by Lindsey Devin. Again, I know I've been talking about pirates a lot, but there's a reason for that. Come back here on September 19th and you'll know why. But I know like it's really difficult for me when I was looking for pirate books. There weren't a lot out there that sounded really unique to me, so I found a few that were kind of fantasy, some that were, you know, not fantasy, more like based on actual pirates. I found a lot where I was reading the synopsis and I just really didn't connect with the story or what would have been the story if I actually read the books. And so I decided to go for alien pirates because there are a lot of those. Crazy enough, or it's weird to say that, but there are a lot more alien pirate romance books than there are just typical pirate romance books. Or at least ones that I want to read, because like I said, I was looking through pirate romance and I just really didn't find any that I jived with. I found a good selection of them and I read them and I was really into them. But I decided to finish off this list that I'm building. I wanted to move on to pirates in space because there's a lot more of a selection of that. So according to the synopsis, I think it is an old love story, which I haven't really read a lot of these, but it's an old love story, and I guess it is taking place after the love story where one of the partners has lost their memory. And that is really all I know. And so I'm actually really excited because I haven't read a good alien romance since I read Carnal Games a couple months ago. So I'd really like to find another good alien romance. We'll see. The next, or the last one that I have on my TBR, if I'm being honest with myself and trying to stick within the range of things that I can actually read through in a month, because I have a lot more than this on my TBR, but I've tried really hard to narrow it down to possibly a number that I could possibly get through in a month. And that is Bite the Terror That Feeds by Penelope Barsetti. And it's the second book in the Dirty Blood series, and I read the first book very recently and I freaking loved it. I loved it. I was so invested. I think it was a unique idea. It was a little bit cheesy in some parts. I wanted to slap the characters in some parts, but it was all just like the best, like, I don't know, I haven't read a really good vampire romance in a long time, and this book definitely like ticked all my boxes. So I'm really excited to get into the next book, into the second book, which is interesting because I am not somebody, when I read a book that is part of a series, if I read the first book and it's got like a cliffhanger at the end, if that book is not out yet, the second book in that series is not out yet, then I typically will just forget about it altogether. It's like this thing that I have in my head where if it's not out and I'm suffering, then I just erase it from my head so I don't have to suffer anymore. But the second book in the series is currently out, so I am going to pick that up and I'm going to read it. And I'm really excited about it. So that is my September TBR. I know like a lot of other people's TBRs are very long, and mine is probably considered kind of short, and if I'm being honest with myself, I probably will only get through about half of these. But that's okay. A girl can dream. I have a lot of books that I really want to read. And again, maybe soon I will have a subscription to a audiobook website that I can use to play in the background while I do my other work, because I do a lot of other work. This is kind of just a side thing right now. I mean, not the reading. The reading is like a full-time thing, but and the writing is a full-time thing as well. But I have a lot of projects going on. I have a lot going on in my life, so it's hard for me to keep up sometimes. But fingers crossed that September goes really, really well, because August went really, really well. All of the books that I read were entertaining and good. I only DNF'd 2, which is very unlike me because I'm a big like DNFer. I DNF books left and right because I am somebody that like if I'm not enjoying it, then I don't want to waste my time. And that says nothing against the authors, you know. Everybody writes their own way and everybody reads their own way, and because I don't have an audiobook website and I have to actually sit down and focus on books, if I am not interested, if I am not invested in the characters, if I don't feel connected to the story right away, I will wipe my hands of it. And so that's where I'm at right now. Literally having to tear myself away from Jurassic World and writing. The things that I do when I'm not doing YouTube videos, I make things for people to buy on my website. I know it's a mess. It's always a mess. There's no keeping it from being a mess. When you're dealing with slimy silicone and silicone dye, it is a mess.